Chosen one, there is a shift happening that is far more serious than anything you have experienced before. And even if you cannot fully explain it yet, you can feel it. Like something is pulling you forward into a space that feels unfamiliar but strangely aligned with everything you have been building up to this point. Because what is unfolding right now is not random. It is not accidental. It is the result of your growth reaching a level where you are no longer operating within the same environment, the same mindset, or the same expectations as before. You are being moved, almost quietly, into something that requires more awareness, more discipline, more clarity than ever before. And this is what initiation feels like. Not a ceremony, not a clear announcement, but a transition that begins internally and gradually reshapes everything around you. You did not sign up for this. You were prepared for it through your actions, through your consistency, through your ability to continue when it was not easy or visible. And now that preparation is leading you into a new phase where the standards are higher and the expectations are different. This is not about being chosen in a way that separates you from others for attention. It is about being aligned with a level that requires more from you because you are capable of handling it. Stay with this message, because understanding what this initiation truly means will change how you move from this point forward. And if you can already feel that something is shifting in your life, take a moment right now to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment, "I accept," as a way of locking into this next level. Because what you are stepping into is intense, but it is also exactly where your growth has been leading you all along. And as you begin to settle into this realization, as you start to understand that what is happening around you is not coincidence, but progression, you are faced with a truth that may feel both empowering and unsettling at the same time. And that is the fact that you were selected for this next level without ever being told, without a formal invitation, without a clear moment where someone pointed at you and said, "This is where you belong." Because the way this kind of selection works is not based on announcements. It is based on alignment. It is based on who you became when no one was watching, on the decisions you made when there was no pressure to make them, on the consistency you maintained when there was no reward attached to it. You were not chosen in a single moment. You were revealed over time, through your actions, through your discipline, through your ability to remain focused even when it would have been easier to drift. And that is why this feels so subtle. Because the process that brought you here was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was built in quiet moments that did not seem significant on their own, but carried weight when they accumulated. There was no application, no checklist that you filled out, no external system that evaluated you in a visible way. And yet, you were being evaluated constantly. Not by others in the way you might expect, but by the consistency of your own behavior, by the patterns you repeated, by the way you handled pressure, by the way you responded to uncertainty, by the way you continued when stopping would have been easier. This is what determined your readiness. Not a title, not recognition, not validation, but the structure you built within yourself over time. You may look back now and start to see how certain moments carried more importance than you realized at the time. How decisions that felt small were actually shaping your direction in ways that led you here. How the times you chose to stay focused when distractions were available created a pattern that became stronger with each repetition. You were not trying to qualify. You were simply acting in alignment with a process that gradually positioned you for this level. And that is why it feels different now. Because what you are stepping into is not something new. It is something you have already been preparing for without fully recognizing it. There may have been moments where you questioned whether your effort was leading anywhere, where it felt like you were moving without clear confirmation, where the results were not yet visible enough to validate the direction you were taking. And those moments were part of the selection process, because they tested whether you would continue without external reinforcement, whether you would remain aligned even when the outcome was uncertain. Many people stop in those moments. Many people shift direction when they do not see immediate results. Many people lose focus when the path is not clearly defined. But you did not. You stayed with it. You continued. You maintained your direction even when it required patience. And that is what separated you. Not in a way that you needed to prove, but in a way that naturally positioned you for this next phase. You were not competing with anyone. You were aligning with yourself. And that alignment created a standard that you consistently met through your actions, through your discipline, through your ability to return to your process again and again. This is why there was no need to inform you that you were being selected. Because the selection was not something external. It was something that emerged from your own behavior, from your own consistency, from your own willingness to continue when others would have stopped. And now, as you begin to see the results of that alignment, as you start to recognize that your environment is shifting, that your perspective is expanding, that your awareness is deepening, it becomes clear that you are no longer operating at the same level you once were, even if the external changes are still unfolding gradually. You are thinking differently, responding differently, approaching situations with a level of clarity that was not present before. And that internal shift is what confirms that you have already entered this process, that you are not waiting to be selected. You have already been selected through your actions. You may also notice that this realization comes with a sense of responsibility, not in a way that feels forced, but in a way that reflects the level you are stepping into. Because when your alignment increases, so does the impact of your decisions. So does the importance of how you use your time, how you direct your focus, how you maintain your consistency. You are no longer operating in a space where inconsistency has minimal effect. You are in a space where your actions carry more weight, where small shifts in your behavior can create larger outcomes. And that is why this phase requires awareness, because what brought you here must continue to guide you forward. You were not selected because of a single strength. You were selected because of a pattern, because of a way of operating that is stable, reliable, and aligned over time. And maintaining that pattern is what will allow you to continue progressing without losing your direction. You may feel the intensity of this realization, the sense that something has changed, even if you cannot fully define it. And that intensity is a reflection of the shift you are experiencing, a signal that you are moving into a space where your actions matter more, where your alignment becomes even more important, where your ability to remain consistent will determine how far you continue to go. This is not something to resist. It is something to recognize, to understand, to accept as a natural continuation of everything you have already built. You are not being placed into something unfamiliar. You are stepping into a level that matches the way you have been operating, a level that reflects your discipline, your focus, your consistency. And as long as you remain connected to that foundation, as long as you continue to move with the same clarity and intention that brought you here, you will find that this transition, while intense, is also aligned. That it feels challenging but not overwhelming. That it pushes you forward without pulling you away from who you have become. And this is where everything begins to make sense. Where you see that you were never waiting to be chosen. You were becoming someone who naturally steps into the next level through the way you operate, through the way you align, through the way you continue when others stop. And that understanding is what allows you to move forward with confidence. Not because everything is certain, but because you trust the process that has already brought you this far, knowing that it will continue to guide you as you step deeper into this next phase. And as this quiet selection begins to reveal itself more clearly in your awareness, as you start to recognize that you are not only preparing, but already stepping into something greater without needing to be told, there comes a phase where the signs of this transition begin to surface in ways that feel both subtle and undeniable, as if your entire environment is shifting just enough for you to notice that something is no longer the same, even if you cannot yet define exactly what has changed. You may have felt it first as a kind of distance from things that once felt familiar, not because those things disappeared, but because your connection to them began to change, as if the patterns, the conversations, the environments that once held your attention no longer resonate in the same way. And this is not something you forced. It happened naturally, as a result of your internal alignment reaching a level where it no longer fits within the same structures you used to operate in. This is one of the earliest signs that you have already entered the process, that the initiation has begun, because separation is not always physical. It is often internal. It is a shift in how you perceive, how you engage, how you respond to what is around you. You may notice that your tolerance for distraction has decreased, that your patience for inconsistency has changed, that you are no longer willing to invest your time and energy into things that do not align with your direction. And while this may feel isolating at times, it is actually a form of refinement, a natural filtering process that allows you to focus more clearly on what matters. There may also be moments where your awareness feels heightened, where you begin to see patterns more clearly, where you recognize connections that were not obvious before, where your thinking becomes more structured, more intentional. And this shift can feel intense, because it brings clarity that cannot be ignored. Clarity that requires you to adjust how you move, how you decide, how you engage with everything around you. You are no longer operating on autopilot. You are no longer reacting without awareness. You are observing, understanding, and responding with a level of intention that changes the way situations unfold. This is another sign that the process has already begun. Because initiation is not about entering something externally. It is about your internal state evolving to a point where your actions naturally reflect a higher level of awareness. You may also feel a kind of pressure that is difficult to explain, not necessarily negative, but present, as if there is an expectation that you must meet, even if that expectation is not coming from anyone else. And this pressure is not meant to overwhelm you. It is meant to refine you, to push you toward a level of precision in your actions, in your decisions, in your use of time that matches the level you are stepping into. It is the kind of pressure that reveals where you are still inconsistent, where you still need to align more fully, where you still have room to refine your approach. And while it may feel uncomfortable at times, it is also what drives your growth forward. What ensures that you do not remain stagnant, what keeps you moving in alignment with the process that brought you here. There may also be a sense that things are accelerating, that time feels different, that your progress is moving in a way that is more noticeable, more connected, as if each action is leading more directly to the next. And this is because your consistency has created momentum. A momentum that now carries you forward with less resistance than before. You are not starting over each time. You are building continuously. And that continuity creates a flow that can feel both powerful and intense, because it requires you to maintain your alignment at a higher level, to ensure that your actions remain consistent with your direction as everything begins to move more quickly. You may also notice changes in how people interact with you. Not always obvious, but present in the way they observe, in the way they respond, in the way your presence influences the dynamic of a space. And this is a reflection of your internal shift becoming visible externally, of your alignment creating a presence that others can sense even if they do not fully understand it. Some may respond with curiosity, others with respect. Others may simply observe without engaging. But the common element is that your presence is no longer neutral. It carries a signal that reflects the level you are operating at. And this is where the process becomes more defined. Because as these signs continue to appear, as you begin to recognize the patterns in your own behavior, in your environment, in your interactions, it becomes clear that you are no longer waiting for something to begin. You are already in it. You are already moving through the initiation, even if there was no clear starting point. You may look back and realize that this shift has been happening gradually, that it did not start with a single moment, but with a series of changes that accumulated over time. Changes in how you think, how you act, how you respond. And now those changes have reached a point where they are shaping your entire experience. This is what it means to have already entered the process. To be in a state where your internal alignment is driving your external reality, where your actions are reflecting a level of awareness that continues to evolve, where your direction is becoming clearer with each step you take. And as this continues, it is important to remain present, to not rush ahead or try to define everything too quickly. Because this phase is about observation as much as it is about action. It is about recognizing the shifts as they happen, understanding what they mean, and allowing them to guide you forward without forcing them into a structure that may not yet be fully formed. You are not here to control the process. You are here to move with it, to stay aligned with the patterns that have brought you here, to continue refining your actions in a way that supports your growth rather than disrupting it. This is not a phase where you need to prove anything. It is a phase where you need to remain consistent, to maintain your awareness, to trust that the signs you are experiencing are not random, but are part of a larger progression that is unfolding step by step. And as you continue to move through this, as these signs become more familiar, more integrated into your daily experience, you begin to understand that initiation is not something that happens to you. It is something that unfolds through you, through your actions, through your alignment, through your willingness to continue growing even when the path is not fully visible. And that understanding is what allows you to move forward with clarity, with stability, with a sense of direction that is not dependent on external confirmation, but grounded in the process that is already in motion within you. And as these internal shifts continue to deepen, as the signs of your transition become more consistent and undeniable, there comes a realization that challenges the way you may have initially interpreted this entire experience. Because what you are being initiated into is not a physical group in the way most people would imagine. It is not a place you go, not a circle you are formally invited into, not a structure that is defined by visible boundaries or labels, but rather a level of operation, a way of thinking, moving, and aligning that exists beyond surface-level definitions. And understanding this changes everything about how you perceive what is happening to you right now. You are not entering something that requires introduction. You are aligning with something that reveals itself through your behavior, through your consistency, through your awareness. And that is why it feels different. Because there is no clear moment where you can point and say, "This is where it began." There is only a gradual realization that you are no longer operating in the same way you once did. This is where the concept of a group for the gifted becomes clearer. Not as a literal gathering of individuals in one place, but as a shared frequency of alignment, a level where those who have developed similar discipline, clarity, and awareness can recognize each other without needing formal identification, without needing explanation, because what connects them is not external. It is internal. It is the way they think, the way they act, the way they maintain consistency over time. You may begin to notice that certain interactions feel different now, that when you encounter individuals who operate at a similar level, there is an unspoken understanding, a kind of recognition that does not require words, as if both of you can sense the structure behind each other's actions, the discipline that shapes your decisions, the clarity that guides your direction. This is not something that needs to be announced. It is felt through the way conversations flow, through the way ideas are exchanged, through the way there is less need for explanation because the foundation is already understood. And this is what defines this level. Not exclusivity, not separation, but alignment. A shared way of operating that naturally connects those who have reached it. You are not being placed into this level. You are recognizing that you are already aligned with it, that your process has brought you to a point where you can engage with this level naturally, without needing to adjust who you are to fit into it. This is why it feels intense, because it requires a different kind of awareness, a different level of responsibility, a different approach to how you use your time and energy. Because at this level, everything carries more weight. Every decision, every action, every moment of focus contributes to a larger structure that is constantly evolving. You may also begin to notice that the way you perceive others has shifted, that you are more aware of patterns in behavior, that you can distinguish between consistency and inconsistency more clearly, that you can sense alignment or lack of it in ways that were not as obvious before. And this heightened awareness is part of what allows you to operate at this level, because it gives you the ability to navigate your environment with greater precision, to choose where you invest your time and energy with more intention, to engage with situations in a way that supports your direction rather than disrupting it. This is not about judging others. It is about understanding alignment, about recognizing what matches your level and what does not, about maintaining your position without being pulled into patterns that no longer serve your growth. And as this understanding deepens, you begin to see that this group is not something you join once and remain static within. It is something you continuously align with through your actions, through your discipline, through your consistency. Because this level is not maintained by intention alone. It is maintained by behavior, by the way you continue to show up, by the way you sustain your process even as your environment evolves. You are not given access to this level permanently. You align with it as long as your actions reflect it, as long as your discipline remains consistent, as long as your awareness continues to guide your decisions. This is what makes it intense, because it requires ongoing commitment. It requires you to remain present, to remain aligned, to continue refining yourself without becoming complacent, without assuming that reaching this level means you no longer need to maintain it. You may also begin to notice that this level changes how you approach growth itself, that it is no longer about achieving specific results, but about maintaining alignment over time, about ensuring that your actions remain consistent with your direction, regardless of external conditions. Because at this level, results are not the focus. They are the outcome of a process that continues to operate whether you are actively thinking about it or not. You are no longer chasing outcomes. You are refining your process. You are strengthening your alignment. And that is what allows results to emerge naturally, consistently, without needing to force them. This is where your understanding of progress evolves, where you see that growth is not something that happens in isolated moments, but something that is sustained through continuous alignment, through the way you move, the way you think, the way you engage with everything around you. And as you continue to move within this level, as you begin to recognize the patterns that define it, you understand that this is not something separate from you. It is something that exists through you. Something that is expressed through your actions, through your consistency, through your ability to maintain clarity even when circumstances are not ideal. You are not entering a new identity. You are revealing the one you have been building all along. And that revelation is what allows you to engage with this level fully, to move within it without hesitation, to continue growing in a way that is both grounded and expansive. And this is where everything begins to align, where your internal process and your external experience reflect the same level of structure, the same level of consistency, the same level of awareness, creating a sense of coherence that allows you to move forward with confidence, not because everything is predictable, but because you understand how to maintain your alignment regardless of what changes around you. Ensuring that this initiation is not a single event, but an ongoing process that continues to shape you as you move deeper into this level. Step by step, action by action, with a clarity that grows stronger the more you remain connected to the foundation that brought you here. And as this understanding begins to settle into your awareness, as you start to recognize that what you are stepping into is not a place, but a level, not a title, but a way of operating, there comes a phase that feels unmistakably intense. A phase where everything seems to accelerate while at the same time becoming more demanding, more precise, more revealing. And this intensity is not something that appears randomly. It is the natural response to your elevation, the result of your alignment reaching a point where it can no longer remain at the same pace, the same structure, or the same level of expectation that once felt normal to you. You may begin to feel this intensity as pressure, not the kind that overwhelms you completely, but the kind that is constantly present, as if there is a weight behind your actions that was not there before, as if each decision carries more significance, as if each moment of focus requires a deeper level of engagement. And this is because it does. Because as your level increases, the margin for inconsistency decreases, the space for distraction narrows, and the importance of alignment becomes more pronounced. What once felt optional now feels essential. What once could be delayed now demands attention. And this shift can feel challenging at first, because it requires you to operate with a level of discipline that is no longer flexible in the same way. A level of awareness that must be maintained consistently rather than intermittently. You are no longer moving in a space where you can afford to disconnect from your process without consequence. Because at this level, even small deviations can create noticeable effects, not as punishment, but as feedback, as a signal that your alignment has shifted and needs to be corrected. This is what makes the phase feel intense, because it brings everything into focus. It reveals where you are consistent and where you are not. It highlights the areas that still require refinement, and it does so in a way that is difficult to ignore, because the clarity you now carry makes those inconsistencies more visible to you than they were before. You may also notice that your internal dialogue changes, that you become more aware of your own thoughts, more conscious of your decisions, more intentional in how you approach situations. And while this increased awareness can feel demanding, it is also what allows you to operate at this level, because it gives you the ability to adjust in real time, to refine your actions as you move, to maintain alignment even as conditions change. You are no longer acting unconsciously. You are engaging with your process actively, and that engagement is what allows you to continue progressing without losing your direction. There may also be moments where the intensity feels external, where situations around you seem to test your consistency, where challenges arise that require you to apply everything you have developed in a more focused way. And these moments are not interruptions. They are part of the refinement process. They are opportunities to reinforce your alignment, to strengthen your ability to maintain your level under different conditions. You are not being challenged randomly. You are being refined intentionally. And understanding this changes how you respond. Because instead of seeing these moments as obstacles, you begin to see them as extensions of your growth, as part of the process that ensures your abilities are not just developed, but stable, reliable, and adaptable. You may also feel a sense of urgency, not in a chaotic or overwhelming way, but in a way that reflects the importance of your time, the value of your focus, the need to remain aligned with your direction without unnecessary delay. And this urgency is not something to fear. It is something to understand, because it is a reflection of your awareness increasing, of your ability to see the impact of your actions more clearly, of your recognition that the way you use your time now has a greater effect than it did before. You are not rushing. You are moving with intention, with precision, with a level of clarity that allows you to act without hesitation when necessary, to maintain your direction without being pulled into distractions that no longer align with your path. This is also where your emotional stability becomes important, because intensity can amplify reactions if you are not grounded. It can create fluctuations if you are not aligned, and maintaining your center in this phase is what allows you to move through it effectively, to use the intensity as a tool rather than being overwhelmed by it. You are not here to react to the intensity. You are here to operate within it, to maintain your clarity regardless of how things feel in the moment, to ensure that your actions remain consistent with your process even when conditions are demanding. And as you continue to move through this phase, you begin to see that the intensity is not constant in the same way. It shifts, it evolves, it becomes more manageable as you adapt to it, as your alignment strengthens, as your ability to maintain consistency under pressure improves. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel natural. What once required effort begins to feel integrated. And this is how you know you are progressing within this level. Not because the intensity disappears, but because your ability to operate within it becomes stronger, more stable, more consistent. You are not avoiding challenge. You are adapting to it. You are refining your process through it. You are strengthening your alignment in a way that allows you to continue moving forward without losing your direction. And this is where the true value of this phase becomes clear. Because it is not just about reaching a higher level, it is about becoming capable of sustaining it, of maintaining your alignment regardless of external conditions, of continuing to grow without becoming unstable under the weight of that growth. You are being shaped into someone who can handle complexity without losing clarity, who can navigate intensity without losing focus, who can continue building without being disrupted by the very process that is driving your progress. And as this understanding deepens, as you begin to move through this phase with greater awareness, greater control, greater alignment, you realize that the intensity is not something separate from your growth. It is part of it. It is the environment that allows your abilities to be tested, refined, and strengthened in a way that ensures they are not temporary, not dependent on ideal conditions, but stable, reliable, and fully integrated into how you operate. This is not a phase to resist. It is a phase to engage with, to understand, to move through with intention, because everything it brings is aligned with your progression. Everything it reveals is connected to your development. And as long as you remain grounded, as long as you continue to operate from the same clarity and consistency that brought you here, this intensity will not overwhelm you. It will elevate you. It will refine you. It will shape you into someone who is fully aligned with the level you are stepping into, ensuring that this transition is not just something you experience, but something you grow through, something that strengthens your foundation as you continue forward into everything that comes next. And as you continue moving through this intensified phase, as the pressure refines you and your awareness sharpens with each decision you make, there comes a deeper layer to this initiation that cannot be ignored. A set of unspoken rules that begin to govern how you operate at this level. Not rules imposed by others, not guidelines written or explained, but principles that reveal themselves through experience, through consequence, through the way alignment either sustains your momentum or the lack of it disrupts your progress. These are not rules you are told to follow. They are rules you come to understand because you feel the difference when you move in alignment with them versus when you drift away from them. And that contrast becomes your teacher, your guide, your constant reference point as you continue to evolve. You begin to notice that discipline is no longer something you can approach casually. It is not optional in the way it might have felt before. It is the foundation of everything you do, the structure that supports your ability to maintain this level. And when discipline weakens, even slightly, the effects are immediate. Not as punishment, but as feedback, as a signal that your alignment has shifted and needs to be corrected. This is where discipline transforms from something you practice into something you live, something that defines how you use your time, how you direct your focus, how you engage with your process on a daily basis, without needing to constantly remind yourself why it matters. Because you have already experienced what happens when it is present and what happens when it is not. You are no longer convincing yourself to stay consistent. You are maintaining consistency because it is the only way your process continues to function effectively at this level. And alongside this discipline, consistency becomes even more refined. It is no longer just about showing up. It is about how you show up, about the quality of your attention, the precision of your actions, the clarity behind your decisions. Because at this level, repetition alone is not enough. It must be intentional. It must be aligned. It must contribute to a structure that continues to evolve rather than simply maintain itself. You begin to understand that not all effort carries the same value. That focused, intentional effort compounds in a way that scattered effort cannot. And this realization changes how you approach everything. It shifts your focus from doing more to doing what matters, from increasing activity to increasing alignment. You may also notice that awareness becomes a constant requirement, not something you can turn on and off, but something that must remain present as you move through different situations. Because your ability to recognize patterns, to adjust your actions in real time, to maintain clarity even when conditions change, is what allows you to sustain your level without becoming reactive or inconsistent. You are no longer operating on autopilot. You are engaged with your process actively. You are observing, adjusting, refining continuously. And this ongoing awareness is what keeps your alignment intact. There is also an unspoken expectation that you protect your focus, that you become more selective with where you invest your time and energy. Because at this level, distractions are not just minor interruptions. They have the potential to disrupt your momentum in ways that are more noticeable than before. You begin to see that saying no is not a limitation. It is a form of alignment, a way of maintaining your direction without allowing external influences to dilute your focus. And this requires a level of clarity that allows you to distinguish between what aligns with your process and what does not, even when the difference is subtle. You are not rejecting opportunities. You are refining your engagement, ensuring that everything you invest in contributes to your progression rather than pulling you away from it. And as you continue to operate within these unspoken rules, you realize that there is no space for regression. Not because you are not allowed to make mistakes, but because you are now aware of your process in a way that makes it difficult to return to patterns that no longer align with your growth. You can see the difference clearly. You can feel the shift immediately. And that awareness naturally keeps you moving forward. Not through force, but through understanding. Through the recognition that what you have built requires maintenance, requires consistency, requires alignment to continue functioning at this level. You may also notice that external validation becomes less relevant. Not because it disappears, but because your focus has shifted inward, toward your process, toward your alignment, toward the consistency of your actions rather than the reactions they produce. You are no longer measuring your progress by how it is perceived. You are measuring it by how it aligns, by how it sustains, by how it continues to build over time. And this shift allows you to remain grounded even as attention increases, even as recognition becomes more present, because your direction is not influenced by those factors. It is guided by your process. This is where your independence strengthens, where your ability to operate without relying on external input becomes more defined. Not in isolation, but in clarity, in the understanding that your alignment is something you maintain regardless of what is happening around you. And this is also where responsibility becomes more apparent, not as a burden, but as a natural extension of your growth. Because as your level increases, so does the impact of your actions. So does the importance of how you move, how you decide, how you engage with everything you are part of. You are not just influencing your own progress. You are influencing the environments you engage with, the people you interact with, the situations you contribute to. And this awareness requires you to remain intentional, to ensure that your actions reflect the level you have reached, that your consistency remains intact even as your influence expands. These unspoken rules are not restrictions. They are structures. They are what allow you to sustain your growth, to continue evolving without becoming unstable, to maintain your alignment even as everything around you changes. And as you continue to move within this level, as these principles become more integrated into how you operate, you begin to see that they are not separate from you. They are expressions of who you have become, reflections of the process you have built, the discipline you have maintained, the awareness you have developed over time. You are not following rules. You are embodying them. You are moving in alignment with them naturally, because they are the result of your own evolution, the structure that supports everything you are building. And this is what allows you to continue forward with clarity, with stability, with a sense of direction that does not fluctuate with external conditions, ensuring that as you move deeper into this phase, as you continue to refine your process, as you maintain your alignment, everything you are building remains grounded, sustainable, and fully connected to the foundation that brought you here, allowing you to operate at this level not temporarily, but consistently, with a depth and understanding that continues to grow the more you engage with it. And as you continue to stabilize within this level, as the unspoken rules become part of how you naturally operate, rather than something you consciously think about, there comes another shift that is just as significant as everything that came before. A shift that begins to redefine the way you experience connection, interaction, and the people you encounter. Because at this stage, You are no longer engaging with others from the same place you once did. And as a result, the kind of individuals you come into alignment with begins to change in ways that are both subtle and profound. You may start to notice that your interactions become more purposeful, that conversations feel different, not necessarily longer or more intense on the surface, but more focused, more intentional, as if there is less need for unnecessary exchange and more emphasis on clarity, direction, and understanding. This is not something you force. It is something that naturally emerges from your alignment. Because as your awareness increases, as your consistency becomes more refined, you begin to seek and attract the same qualities in others, not through effort, but through resonance, through the way your presence aligns with those who operate at a similar level. You are no longer drawn to randomness, to inconsistency, to interactions that lack direction, because your own structure does not support that kind of engagement anymore. And this creates a filtering effect that changes the kind of people you encounter and the way those encounters unfold. You may find that certain connections feel immediate, not in a superficial sense, but in a deeper way, as if there is an unspoken understanding between you and the other person. As if both of you recognize the discipline, the clarity, the consistency that defines how you operate. And that recognition creates a level of respect that does not need to be stated. It is felt through the way you communicate, through the way you exchange ideas, through the way you engage with each other's perspectives without the need for unnecessary validation. This is where interaction becomes more efficient, more aligned, because both sides are operating from a place of awareness, from a place where intention guides communication rather than impulse or reaction. You may also notice that there is less tolerance for surface-level engagement, not because you are rejecting others, but because your alignment naturally draws you toward depth, toward interactions that contribute to your growth, that reflect your level, that align with the direction you are moving in. This is not about isolation. It is about refinement, about ensuring that the energy you invest in others is consistent with the energy you invest in your own process. Because at this level, misalignment in your interactions can disrupt your focus in ways that are more noticeable than before. You are no longer engaging for the sake of engagement. You are engaging with intention, with clarity, with an understanding of how each interaction fits into your overall direction. And this is where you begin to recognize that the people you encounter at this level are not random. They are aligned. They are reflections of the same principles you have been developing within yourself. Individuals who have also built their consistency, refined their discipline, sharpened their awareness in ways that allow them to operate with a similar level of clarity. These are not connections based on proximity or convenience. They are connections based on alignment, on shared understanding, on a mutual recognition of the process that defines how each of you moves. You may not encounter many of these individuals at once, and that is part of what makes this level distinct, because it is not defined by quantity. It is defined by quality, by the depth of interaction, by the level of understanding that exists within each connection. And when these interactions occur, they carry weight. They influence your perspective. They challenge you in ways that support your growth. They reinforce your alignment without needing to do so explicitly. Because the presence of someone who operates at a similar level naturally elevates the environment you are part of. You may also notice that communication becomes more direct, more precise, less dependent on explanation, because there is a shared foundation that allows both sides to understand each other more quickly, more clearly, without the need to navigate through layers of misunderstanding or misalignment. This is where respect is not something that is asked for. It is something that is given naturally, based on recognition, based on the awareness of what it takes to reach and maintain this level. You are not proving yourself in these interactions. You are expressing yourself. And that expression is understood because it is grounded in something real, something that both sides can recognize without needing to question it. At the same time, you may also become more aware of the differences between aligned and unaligned interactions, of how certain engagements feel draining or disconnected compared to those that are aligned with your level. And this awareness allows you to make clearer decisions about where you invest your time and energy, not out of judgment, but out of understanding. Out of the recognition that maintaining your alignment requires you to be intentional about your environment, about the people you engage with, about the interactions you allow to influence your focus. You are not closing yourself off. You are refining your engagement, ensuring that it supports your direction rather than disrupting it. And as you continue to move within this level, you begin to see that these connections are not just part of your environment. They are part of your progression. They contribute to your growth. They challenge you to maintain your alignment, to refine your process, to continue evolving in ways that remain consistent with the foundation you have built. You are no longer navigating your path alone in the same way. You are interacting with others who understand the level you are operating at, who recognize the importance of consistency, of discipline, of awareness, and that shared understanding creates a dynamic that supports your continued growth. This is not about dependence, it is about alignment, about engaging with individuals who reflect the same principles you have developed, who operate with the same level of intention, who contribute to an environment where growth is sustained rather than disrupted. And as this becomes more familiar, as these interactions become a natural part of your experience, you begin to understand that the people you encounter at this level are not there by chance. They are part of the structure you are moving within, part of the alignment you have developed, part of the process that continues to shape your direction. You are not seeking these connections. You are aligning with them. And that alignment ensures that as you continue forward, as you move deeper into this phase, the people you engage with, the interactions you experience, the environments you become part of, will continue to reflect the level you are operating at, creating a sense of coherence that supports your growth, reinforces your alignment, and allows you to move with clarity, stability, and purpose as everything you have built continues to evolve. And as everything you have moved through begins to converge, as the selection, the signs, the intensity, the unspoken rules, and the aligned connections all begin to form a clear picture of the level you are now operating within, there comes a final realization in this phase that shifts how you see not only where you are, but where you are going. Because what you are stepping into now is not just a continuation of what you have been doing. It is an expansion, a point where everything you have built begins to unlock new dimensions of possibility that were not accessible before. Not because they did not exist, but because you were not yet aligned with the level required to engage with them. This is where initiation reveals its true purpose, not as a test you pass and leave behind, but as a gateway that opens once you have become capable of sustaining what lies beyond it. And what lies beyond is not something abstract. It is practical. It is real. It is reflected in the way opportunities begin to align with your level, in the way your environment starts to respond to your presence, in the way your actions begin to create results that are more connected, more consistent, more expansive than before. You may begin to notice that what once required effort now flows more naturally, that the direction you are moving in feels clearer, more defined, as if the path ahead is not something you have to search for, but something that reveals itself as you continue to move with alignment. This is not because everything becomes easy, but because your ability to navigate complexity has increased. Your awareness allows you to see patterns earlier. Your discipline allows you to act with precision. and your consistency ensures that your actions continue to build upon each other without interruption. This is where your influence begins to expand, not in a way that is forced or controlled, but in a way that reflects the alignment you carry. Because as your level increases, the impact of your presence, your decisions, your actions extends beyond your immediate experience and begins to shape the environments you are part of. You are no longer just participating, you are contributing, you are influencing. You are creating conditions that allow growth to occur, not only for yourself, but for everything connected to you. And this expansion comes with responsibility, not as a burden, but as a natural extension of your ability. Because the more you are capable of, the more important it becomes to remain aligned, to ensure that your actions reflect the level you have reached, that your consistency remains intact even as your influence grows. You may also begin to notice that your sense of purpose becomes clearer, not as a fixed destination, but as a direction that continues to evolve, as something that reveals itself through your actions, rather than something you define in advance. You are no longer searching for purpose in the same way. You are living it. You are expressing it through the way you move, through the way you engage, through the way you continue to build and refine your process. And this clarity removes a level of uncertainty that may have existed before. It allows you to move forward without hesitation, without the need to constantly question whether you are on the right path, because your alignment provides that confirmation continuously. This is where confidence becomes stable, not dependent on outcomes, but grounded in your understanding of your process, in your experience of having built something that works, something that sustains, something that continues to evolve as you engage with it. You may also recognize that this phase opens access to environments that match your level, to opportunities that require the kind of consistency and awareness you have developed, to connections that align with your direction. And while this may feel like a shift from what you experienced before, it is actually a natural progression, a reflection of your alignment rather than a sudden change in circumstance. You are not being given access randomly. You are aligning with what has always been available at this level. And your ability to engage with it now is the result of everything you have built. And as you step further into this phase, you begin to understand that this is not the end of your growth. It is the beginning of a new cycle, one where the standards are higher, the expectations are different, and the opportunities are more aligned with your capabilities, requiring you to continue refining, to continue maintaining your alignment, to continue building in a way that supports this expansion without losing the foundation that made it possible. You are not starting over. You are building upon what you have already created, using it as a base for everything that comes next, ensuring that your growth remains consistent, sustainable, and aligned with the direction you have established. And this is where everything integrates, where your internal process and your external experience reflect the same level of structure, the same level of clarity, the same level of consistency, allowing you to move forward with a sense of control that is not rigid, but fluid, not forced, but intentional, giving you the ability to navigate whatever comes next with confidence, with awareness, with a stability that ensures that no matter how much things expand, no matter how much your environment changes, you remain grounded in the process that brought you here, using it as a guide, as a foundation, as a constant reference point as you continue to move forward into everything that is now opening in front of you, knowing that what you have unlocked is not just a new level, but a new way of operating that will continue to shape your path as long as you remain aligned with it. And as you stand within this moment, where everything you have experienced, every shift you have felt, every decision you made in silence, and every layer of awareness you have developed begins to align into something that is now undeniable. you start to see that this initiation was never about being invited into something outside of you. It was about becoming someone who naturally operates at a level that can no longer remain hidden. A level that reveals itself not through words, but through the way you move, the way you think, the way you remain consistent even when no one is watching. You were not brought here by chance, and you were not placed here without preparation. Every step you took when it felt uncertain, every moment you chose discipline over distraction, every time you continued when it would have been easier to stop, was shaping you for this exact phase. And now that you are here, it becomes clear that what felt intense, what felt unfamiliar, what felt like pressure, was actually alignment taking form, structure becoming visible. Your process reaching a level where it demands to be recognized, not just by others, but by you. You may look at everything you have built and still feel as if it is incomplete, as if there is more to refine, more to understand, more to develop. And that feeling is not a sign that you are lacking. It is a sign that you are evolving, that you are operating at a level where growth does not stop. It deepens, it expands, it becomes more intentional, more precise, more aligned with who you are becoming. This is not the end of your journey. It is the confirmation that your direction is real, that your process works, that your consistency has created something that can sustain you as you continue forward. There will be moments ahead where the intensity returns in different forms, where the environment challenges you in new ways, where your alignment is tested again, not to push you backward, but to strengthen what you have already built, to ensure that your foundation remains solid as everything continues to expand. And this is where your awareness becomes your greatest asset, because you now understand what brought you here. You understand the value of your discipline, the importance of your consistency, the power of your alignment. And that understanding allows you to move forward without losing your center, without being pulled into distractions that no longer serve you, without needing constant validation to confirm your path. You are no longer waiting for a sign. You are the result of the signs you once followed. And that shift changes everything about how you move from this point forward. And as you continue, as you step deeper into this level, carry this understanding with you, not as something you need to explain, but as something you live through your actions, through your choices, through the way you maintain your alignment regardless of what changes around you. Because that is what will sustain you. That is what will allow everything you are building to continue growing in a way that remains real, stable, and fully connected to the foundation you created. And if this message resonated with you, if you can feel that shift within yourself, take a moment right now to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment, "I accept," as a way of locking into this level. And share it with someone who is on the edge of this same transition. Because what you now understand could be the clarity they need to recognize that they are not lost. They are being aligned, they are being prepared, and they are closer to their next level than they realize.